PowerShell console, and whenever you click on it, it starts with existence.
I'm gonna say I've been playing with Azure, their winter version, which is pretty good so far. I have a little bit of fear here and there, but George Neal's pretty much playing with that. Because he gets the fun stuff.
It's one on Windows because at least you get a serial console, so you can't get a console. You still cannot get a console on the
That would be a better mic or?
Yeah, you know, you're gonna have, on any decent machine, you're gonna have Brad, which is a Dell or anything. You can take it out.
You get has to be here. You get
Yeah, true.
you get nothing.
Oh, he really wants you to, really wants you to log into Apple ID. Did you say the security was student?
No, for the, which network are you on?
Networks is. Name exchange, yes. And then when that connects, yes. There's a login page you go to, and then you click.
That is the
you type in
weirdest,
Brilliance.
The progression. It's like, that's an interesting wipe you got there.
Like that?
Yeah.
It looks fine right
Hey, do not touch that. Do not touch. Let's see the guy that can reach that.
Oh, it was down on the ground when the.
Oh,
the
that's
sticker
it.
on it.
I'm connected.
Because I didn't want to a different outlet. Someone to mess with it.
I was thinking, I don't think I told John that
As soon as you unplug it, it's done.
Maybe.
The power?
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah, I think you have a ground loop.
Wow, that's weird. Do you want an extension cord?
Yeah.
It's up to everybody out here.
What does it do on the back plug in the wall behind you? Or is that long enough? No. Yeah. We're all on, this is all on video, so.
So,
Tank nuts here.
what was that? You said, what
Same thing.
was it? What was it called?
Stratus. It's just some stuff about it.
Small
It's,
tangle.
there's like a bit of piece of crap here and there. I don't know how well it's going on. But,
Where you
Oh, it's the power strip. I'm gonna say it's the
Julia's
power strip.
drawings. Here you go. The slash product signals. All the way up.
I'm gonna guess it's, the Max.
Except for this, I guess.
All right, let's try to.
The Max?
Keyboard's
Yeah.
nice.
Yes.
Really?
Well, I always play the Max too, so.
Power them all down. Except for the
Well,
one.
you know. It happens. You're all fuzzy there.
You get 100% battery, don't you?
Boy. That's better. Okay. Hello, and welcome to May. Omaha Linux Users Group 2018.
Yay, May! Yay.
May 1st. Oh, I'm John Larson. I'm a systems engineer and director of the Brain Exchange here. So, Ubuntu's out. Is that what I heard somebody say?
1804 is out.
And Fedora 28 just came out.
Fedora 28 is out.
Jerky Linux 15.1, and release candidate 1's up.
And then Microsoft Spring Creators Update, or April Creators Update.
Yeah. In May, it's out, but
It's out. Well, they put it right on the last day of the month, the 30th, just to get it out the door. I don't have anything else.
Aren't you gonna plug the Harvard Developers Conference and say, oh, they're call for paper?
There was a call for papers from the Harvard Developers Conference. I think I saw that email earlier today.
Yes. You by May 15th if you want to do a workshop, September 5th through 7th.
5th and 7th.
Yeah.
Okay.
What month?
September.
Okay.
Yep. And it should be same place, should be as last year. Same as Infotech. So, if you want to speak. So it's chronic.com/HDC is the website.
Maybe they won't reject my talks this year.
We'll hope that they wouldn't. I renewed the gravity forms on Friday so they could have the form ready for today, so that's good, right? So today, Chad's gonna talk about Tmux. And I don't know anything about it, so I'm interested to hear.
Right on.
Awesome. And I don't know if we'll be able to hear the rain through the recording, but it'll be interesting.
As long as we don't hear the hail.
That's true. Tried to save my car once with a sleeping bag when it was hailing. That was fun.
All right, you guys ready? Yep. Let's get this thing going. So, Tmux, getting started with Tmux. So, what is Tmux? In short, Tmux is a terminal multiplexer. So, think of it like virtual workspaces, but for the shell. So, you know how you have your graphical workspaces where I can have like this desktop and this desktop, but now you can get it right down onto the terminal, which is kind of neat. Tmux is akin to an older program called Screen. Screen has, you know, still being maintained, I guess, to some degree, but it has an older code base, so it's not heavily updated too much. What makes Tmux kind of nice is it's a lot more code cleanup, it's hackable, and you have plugins that you can also bring in Tmux land.
So Chad, real quick.
Yeah.
I think we're all old enough here that I had no idea what Tmux was. I just took a quick peek at it.
Yep.
The first thing that came to my mind, and this probably shows my age, was Norton Commander from the DOS days. Did anybody use that when DOS was out?
A little bit.
So it basically had exactly what Tmux does, except for it gave you a command prompt at the bottom and your file system at the top and a DOS window. This was back when Windows 3.1 and Windows for Workgroups were just starting out. So
Might be similar, might be a little different.
yeah.
So let's see
I mean,
where
that was the first thing that I thought. I was like, oh, that's Norton Commander.
Well, let's see where they compare. So so that's a bad slide there. But anyway, so it's a pretty simple install. So Ubuntu is just an apt install. CentOS Rel is a Yum, and Fedora, I'm guessing, it's a DNF install. Nope, go ahead. Yeah, so I tried to make this an interactive thing with the commands up here. So I think a lot of people, you'll get more out of it if you're actually playing with Tmux as I'm doing this. So I'm just going to give you some basic commands. It's definitely a lot more involved than the commands you're going to see here, but you got to get started someplace, right? So what are some of the basics? So the leader key. So the default leader key is Control B. Okay. Typically, though, people hack that and change that over to a Control A, one that puts it akin to Screen. So you have a lot of people migrating from Screen over, so it puts that Control key there. It's also a lot easier to hit Control A on the keyboard with one hand than it is Control B because of the distance between the keys. Tmux breaks down into basically sessions, windows, and panes. So think of Tmux, you can have multiple sessions. So think of that as multiple terminal windows. Sessions can have multiple windows. When you open up your terminal, that's your window. But in that one session, you can have multiple windows. And then inside that one window, you can have it slice and dice any way you want. Each one of those is called a pane. Okay, to put it in more modern terms, you can think of windows as tabs and panes as splits, which we'll kind of visually start to see here. So a couple more basics here. So outside of Tmux, you have commands like Tmux list to see what the available current sessions are available. Tmux A-T, some session ID, that'll actually attach you into your session. To kill a session it's Tmux kill session. And if you want to do a name session, this gets a little bit more into the whole, I want to start staging like a development environment kind of thing. You can do a new -s with a name. Inside Tmux, you got your leader key D, which actually disconnects you from your session. And that's kind of where I wanted to keep those right now, because again, if they get too much information, it's information overload. So you got to have those building blocks to get into it. And we're going to walk through all these pretty quick while we're doing this stuff. So your basic commands, I split this up. It's not really an advanced command per se. It's that I found it unnecessary from a getting started point of view. So again, you want to keep this stuff kind of simple. It's like learning VI. You don't learn all 90 commands at once, right? So you got your create a window, which is leader C. Everything has a leader key, so lists out your windows as a W, next window is an N, P for next. Go direct to a window, you can do a number sign, so like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it does start with 0, but it can be hacked and changed to a 1. Okay. Splits are pretty much crazy because you have the percent and the quotes, which go horizontal and vertical. Navigating the panes are the arrow keys. Zoom is really neat because we'll see that in action. I'm going to bypass some of these advanced commands. But anyway, before we get into too much of that, let's do some quick demos. So I think I missed a slide. Let me go back and see if I can find it. No, that was the slide I missed right there. So the quickest way to get started with Tmux is just type Tmux. And you'd be surprised over the sanity you get. So let's do a quick demo. So if I'm sitting in here and I VI Etsy password, and I was to kill this terminal window, or worse yet, I'm remoted into some system and I'm VI an Etsy password or something, and I lose my connection, that's typically a bad thing. If you didn't save, you lost all the work you've done. If you have like a big lengthy background process, like an update going on over SSH, and your session gets severed, you probably just lost your update, right? So now you get scrambled. So let's see how that looks when you do Tmux. So if we do a Tmux, and you notice right there, we're in a Tmux session, it looks exactly like a regular shell. If I VI Etsy password, and we're gonna change games to Chuck, and I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna hit this little red button right here, and I'm gonna say, yep, go ahead and kill that. And now we can jump back over here, we can open up Tmux. And if I do a Tmux ls, we see that we have one window that was created X amount of time ago. And if I type Tmux A minus T0, we jump right back into the VI session that I was already editing.
So you don't even have to detach.
I did, well, that was kind of simulating. This is just a nice way of saying,
the connection.
If you want it, the best way to get started with Tmux is to start Tmux, and you actually gain this whole world of kind of like what I like to call like a session preservation kind of mode, because when bad things happen, as they always do, Tmux just kind of comes along and saves you a little bit, right? Now, yeah, if you want to detach from these sessions because maybe you want to start up another session somewhere else, that's where you would do the detaches. If I was in the middle of this VI session and I do my leader C, I just create a whole brand new window right there. And if we go and do the leader W, which I had in there, we see that we have 2 things here. And there's my crappy laptop freaking out.
So I must have missed, what's the leader key?
The leader key by default is Control+B.
Control B.
And when you hack it, which I'll show you some hacks later, you can change it to like Control A or whatever you like prefer. Most people just switch it over to a Control A. Newer versions of Tmux also give you this little preview session. So I think that started with Tmux 2.6. So anything prior to that, you won't have this bottom box. So like if you notice when I go up, it shows I'm in the middle of a VI session, right? Let's go back to this. If I do like my leader %, I can split the screen this way. And if I do my double quotes, I can split the screen this way. So think about this now from a development point of view. I'm in here, I'm coding, so I got one window with my VI session, and I can really switch quickly, toggle over to the other window. So I'm in here in a VI on this window here. And I can jump over to this window and type my make, and meanwhile up in this window I have a top run.
Every time you new a new one, does it start in the same directory that you were in?
I have not looked into that too much, so I'm speculating it does. If it doesn't, it's pretty easy to navigate around, but we can look into that later. And then again, you can have as many windows as you want. So that's kind of Tmux. So if you needed more space in the window you were on, so let me get back over to the previous window. So if I wanted more to do in this VI session, because this is kind of a narrow thing, this is where Zoom comes in. So I can hit Zoom and it gives me what looks like a regular size terminal window where I can go and do my work. And then when I want to get out, I just hit the Zoom key again. I get back to my multiple panes. If you tie this in with VI and Mosh is a great remote shell. Tmux just starts building and stacking on top of that for more productivity. And you can start to see that fingers never really leave the keyboard, so you're not reaching over the mouse to do crazy things. You just stay right where you're at, and you can navigate around these windows pretty neat. One thing I noticed, and I think this is a new thing with 2.6, if I have another session, so let me iconize this window. It's one thing I've noticed with Tmux on 2.6. So I'm not sure. So if I have this window down here in a Tmux session, notice I see the other terminal window.
It's still consistent.
Right, and I can actually navigate over to that other window and jump into it. So, because Tmux goes through a socket. So one neat thing about Tmux is you can do what they call pair programming. A lot of people say you should do this like on something like Linode or DigitalOcean. So you have a special account that everybody knows the password to, say Bob. So you and I would Linode over to Bob. And while we're sitting there on the phone at two dispersed places, we could be in the same Tmux session. I see what you type in the shell, you see what I type in the shell, and we do pair programming right over the phone. So that's kind of neat there. Anybody has any questions, just feel free to jump in and just ask. I'll try and answer it. So you start to get better workflows and better options just in Tmux versus a regular shell. Now there are shells like Tmux and Terminator that actually provide the same thing, but it's a graphical GUI. So if you're SSHing in, you don't get the benefit of the Tmux. So if you start to learn Tmux, you can leverage that in most places. I'm using Tmux here because Tmux has a really cool, and so does Terminator, font sizing option, which I just like, so that's why I use that. I don't use the tiling features of Tmux or Terminator. Customizations, pretty simple, starts with tmux.conf that sits in your home directory. A couple of basic ones, this is kind of how it looks. So comments are comments, as we all know them. This series of lines here changes the leader key from B to A. No, I'm sorry, not that one. I got my two slides messed up there, so good catch. So that changes your leader from B to A. So in order to change splits, that's really change leader. And if we go back to change leader, which change splits, this changes the default splits from percents and the double quote to something that makes a little bit more sense, like a vertical pipe and a dash. Because when you think about splitting horizontally,
the line
as opposed to a double quote.
Yeah. Kind of how the characters it uses to draw on the screen.
Yep. You can do other customizations, like for example, if you're editing your tmux.conf directly in a Tmux session, you may want to reread that. Well, rather than get out of your session and go back into a session, you can set up this little command here to actually reread it on the fly. And outside of that, that was pretty much all I had, real short and sweet. It was just a getting started session, and there's my monitor still freaking out. Yes, I need a new laptop. It doesn't do this on the road though.
It doesn't do it on the road?
It doesn't do it on the road, so I think it's running great, and then I come here and it messes up. So that was it. It was really meant to be an interactive thing, and hopefully you guys were following along on the keyboard a little bit. I might have went a little fast, but if you have any questions, please ask.
Can you show your Tmux now?
My tmux.com?
Yeah, the one that you have.
Yeah. So it's mine right here, remapping the keys. I got some pane resizing going on in here.
Capture panes was like a copy paste.
Yep. So like one thing you'll notice, like Tmux doesn't do scroll bars. So a lot of people get used to doing like a less and seeing a whole, piping or paging through their output. But if you just cat out your file, you can actually insert I think it's a leader square bracket, open square bracket, and that puts you in what's called copy mode of all things. But from there, you can actually start using VI keys and walk right up your entire page and now look through your stuff as if you just did an ls or a less.
Now, it mentions the Tmux plugin manager there. Are you running any plugins?
I am not running any plugins currently, but there are a handful of them out on GitHub. One that I'm very interested in trying out sometime is it actually periodically saves your session. So the idea is that if I SSH in remotely someplace, I'm in a Tmux session, and I'm doing an update of some sort to that box, and I take a power hit at that remote site. So it's periodically trying to save my session so that when, theoretically, when the box comes back up, I can SSH back into it, Tmux LS, and see a session sitting out there and reattach to it, even though the box took a power hit. So that's what kind of got me interested in Tmux, was the ability to do something crazy like that.
So there must be some kind of a swap file that it stores for the saving.
Probably, more than likely. But it's a very extensible, hackable command line program. And ironically, it works everywhere. So Linux, Macintosh, and Windows 10 in the Windows subsystem.
It even comes with the OpenBSD base install, which very few things do.
Yeah, so and since it's on all those flavors, just learning it picks up on the knowledge gets spread across, which is always nice. And depending on if you live in a closed environment, that's probably about the only downside of having a tmux.conf. If it's a closed environment, it's tougher to get those Tmux configs in place. So, like, and unfortunately for me, I'm trying to learn both sides of the world, so the default way of doing things and customized to make life easier on myself.
Yeah, that usually happens after you put a new system in, and then half your shortcuts that you've made on your system you've gotten used to aren't available in a new production system.
Yep.
It's
Okay, so I got Tmux going, I got a top and a bottom screen. How do I switch between the two?
Right, so the easiest way to switch between those is you do the leader key and you hit your up down arrow.
Oh, very nice. And then left, right.
For the most part, most keys don't need to be re-customized to anything else. But a lot of people do like to change the leader key to A because it's easier to hit, and a lot of people like to change the percent and quotes to something that's a little bit more meaningful, like a dash and a pipe.
Well, I can see the A because screen does it.
Screen, Control AD.
Yep.
Everybody knows Control AD detach, right?
And then a lot of people just off that, when they start doing that, you know, the caps lock key getting in the way. A lot of people just say, you know, screw you caps lock, I'm going to change you into a control key too, and now you got 3 control keys. So, and now you don't have to worry about getting in caps lock mode.
Yeah, one of my developers actually, the control key is for the caps with it.
Yep.
Of course, he's using a happy hacking keyboard. Drives me crazy sometimes.
Yep. But I taught a few people at work Tmux, keeping it real simple. You know, this is how you create a window. This is how you, rather than jumping straight to a window, just learn how to list out your windows with a W. Here's how you detach. Here's how you get in. And then here's how you create panes. And just leave it at that. Get comfortable with that before you start stacking too many commands on top of it, because it can become overwhelming. I mean, there's a lot more commands than I even specified in my briefing here. It can really overwhelm you.
What was one of the things that you had an aha moment when you were using it that was just like, I'll never go back?
To a regular terminal?
Yeah, or screen or anything like that. Just the fact
Well, I haven't
that it
really tried.
saves it.
I haven't tried screen too much. Most of the world seems to be moving over to Tmux anyway, so follow the crowd kind of thing. I'm a lemming. Some of the aha moments, I think it was multiples. I like the paired programming approach. I have had some fun with that, where even in a coffee shop, we're just sitting beside each other, but now we're both on the keyboard and we're just doing stuff together in the same shell, which is really nice. Session preservation alone. Yeah. Bad mistakes happen. So even if you're sitting in a coffee shop, somebody walks by and bumps you in such a wrong way right when you're about ready to click on something, you hit the X on accident, it kills your whole terminal. Crap, I just edited 400 lines of code and forgot to save. Well, if you were doing a Tmux session, it's not that big a deal. You just reattach.
Well, it doesn't. The other thing would be, for me, is already it's like, okay, I don't have to remember to hit screen.
Yep. Yep. Here's another thing too. If you start using it, I guarantee you're going to have just a little bit more productivity on the command line because you're not leaving the keyboard to go to the mouse. There's programs out there that they're very similar. One's called Tmuxinator. I can't remember what the other two were called.
There's one of them, Babulska. There's one that's a Japanese one too.
Well, there's Baboya.
Baboya.
But that's not the one I'm thinking of. So Baboya, here's just a plug on Baboya. Baboya is a wrapper around Tmux and screen, and it defaults to Tmux. but it sets you in a specific environment similar to a customized Tmux.com. So what's nice about Baboya is if you get used to using Baboya with their default setup, Baboya is where it's at all day long. But what's really neat about like Tmuxinator and the other akin programs, which are easily defined on GitHub, is if you have okay, I'm about ready to kick off my project. So I'm gonna fire off Tmux. I want 4 windows. The third one's got to be split this way. The second one's got to be split this way. I want top running here. I want certain things here and there. So, and that becomes your basic, like an outside IDE, as opposed, not to include your VI session. This is just the way I want to do business. That's how I always want to get started. Well, it takes a little bit of time when you're sitting down and you go, Tmux controls leader C, leader C, leader C, jump back over this one, I want to set up these panes, back over here, I want to set these panes, go back in this one, I want to set up top, I want to do this here, I want to do that there. But Tmuxinator and those akin programs do, like in a YAML file, you say, this is the way I want you to look. And then when you start a new project, you say Tmuxinator, awesome new thing, and bam, everything's set up for you. It just launches and gives you your 4 windows with the split screens already set up and everything.
Could you set the term to be Tmux for your shell? The system that fires up, and there's one less thing you have to do.
Well, I've seen people get used to typing, and they do this with an alias, so they'll do an SSH or a mosh to go to some remote system, and the command they fire off is Tmux.
Okay.
So that way they say, I'm going to go do this crazy thing over at my Apache server, but as soon as I get into my shell, I want to fire Tmux. And so they never have to think about typing Tmux, or it's already in the Tmux session, and then they can go about doing their job.
Yeah.
And then they're not worried if the line gets cut for whatever reason because they're SSHing halfway around the world and somebody decides to cut the power line with the saw. You know, when they find the next route over, Tmux, you know, they may have to.
Well, you're firing it up on that machine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, and that's where you want to fire it up.
Yeah.
But you can also do Tmux in Tmux.
Yeah.
So you can do that too. You can launch Tmux here, SSH over, do Tmux again. But you got to be careful because then you get into the things where you got to do like a double leader because you got to tell which Tmux you're sending the command to.
Yeah.
I typed rotate window thinking it was going to rotate the actual.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 of them. There's a
Sideways?
one goes like clockwise around, which is your curly braces, which in most cases looks like you're just swapping, but the actual toggle is an O, so you do like a leader O and it'll toggle windows. So that way, like if you accidentally close a pane down and you said, I don't want to do that, so you get your pane back, but now suddenly your edit session's on the bottom instead on the top, you can just hit that leader key and it'll swap those 2 panes around.
So if it does do session saving, does that mean there's an undo?
Technically it's not session saving.
Well,
Okay, unless you actually have that plugin that does.
That's what I'm
session saving,
thinking,
yeah.
is if you have the plugin, does it effectively give you an undo? If it's saving those sessions all the time. I mean, granted, you're only going back to the last session that you was saved at that point.
I'm gonna start off with that. Also depends on what you're currently in that session doing. So if you're
Right.
VI, you're probably gonna be more relying on VI's session saving skills
Yeah.
than Tmux's session saving skills, right?
Right.
So you're gonna have that whole thing in there too.
No, I'm thinking of like, oh, I'm back to work on a Monday. Let's fire up all the terminals that I need for the week and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
But I like, and this comes in really handy with,
Not like I do that.
Want to put a plug for Mosh while you're at it?
do what?
Want to put a plug in for Mosh while you're at it?
I think I already did put a plug in for Mosh.
Two together. Oh, what is Mosh?
So Mosh is for lack of a better word, it's very similar to SSH, but what Mosh has is this really keen understanding of when IPs change. So like if you Mosh into some system and the IP gets swapped out from underneath you because dynamic DNS kicked in and suddenly you got a new one, rather than SSH just dropping your session, Mosh will keep your session alive and you're still connected to the box. So it follows you around. What else can it do?
That's the main thing it does. I mean, that's the main way I use this, because if you go from Wi-Fi to 4G back and forth with your laptop, you got a Wi-Fi modem where it's just, you have an intermittent connection, can really save you a lot. pain in the ass, which combined together with Tmux gives you the ability to have a persistent connection as long as there's some sort of access you have. They work together really well.
Yep. And there's another really cool program out here called Teleconsole. I'm going to give 2 plugs here. One's the Teleconsole. So I work with Teleconsole. I got associates that I work with out of Denver, and we're basically all working on closed systems. So I'm sitting behind Northrop Grumman's firewall. He's sitting behind Lockheed Martin's firewall. And very, very similar to TeamViewer, I can type in Teleconsole. Now, what's really cool when you combine that with Tmux is I'll fire up a Teleconsole session and send him the ID. He says Teleconsole join. He lands in my terminal, but now we're going to be jumping to multiple terminals. But rather than fire off, say, 12 Teleconsole sessions, I can now type Tmux, and he can follow me around window to window. And now in that one Teleconsole session, we're walking around. Teammate actually took that a step farther. Teammate actually takes the Teleconsole ID and automatically wraps up in the Tmux session. But both of them, I haven't really tried Teammate out, but Teleconsole is the one I'm familiar with. But when you wrap it up with Tmux, it's just amazing. I mean, you can't get much better than that. And what's cool about it is exactly like TeamViewer, so you don't have to worry about temporarily modifying your router to allow somebody to SSH into, say, your house or your business. But you do connect to that third-party server that's sitting out there. Yeah. With Teleconsole, you're trusting them, and Teammate, you're trusting somebody else. But same thing with TeamViewer. If you use TeamViewer, you're trusting those guys. So
Does that mean you can set up your own?
with one of those you can. I think Teammate, or maybe it's both. I think both. Teleconsole actually
open and free.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be too bad. I mean, if you've already got a VPS or something.
Yeah, or like a Linode box sitting out there.
Yeah.
Mosh is MSSH or MO?
MOSH.
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 The mobile shell is what they call it.
Yeah. There's some people, nutty people who are trying to use iPads in their main machines. They'll use a combination of Tmux, BNC, and get to the point where they can pretend that they actually have a real computer.
Because they're looking for a degree of difficulty.
Yeah, of course.
No, challenges.
Or they're just looking for a persistent connection.
You have something against backpacks?
What?
You have
No,
something against
they're
backpacks?
fine toys. I have nothing against
But that's all I had. It was really short and sweet because it was really just kind of a getting started thing. I didn't want to overwhelm anybody with a lot of commands. This could easily be a 3-hour thing. It could get really deep and nasty, and you're not going to pick up anything if it goes that long. But I'm willing to stick around for a little bit if anybody's playing with it and kind of help people pick up on it. But again, let's keep it the basics first.
Yeah, one thing you can do that's really nice is you can put the headers and footers on the windows so you keep track of which window is which and stuff, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Which is the way I usually have mine set up.
So window dressing.
And you can also
So
reset.
we'll have ours in there, we'll have the window set like this is when we're doing our distribution from, this is when we're doing our compiling. So let's say don't do the wrong one because you have different users and scripts.
The one thing I did want to show you guys though, let me blow this window up a little bit. We were talking about, okay, so that's, So one thing you'll notice if you're doing pair programming, so when I showed you guys when I did the Control W, I said, look at this other window I got over the session. Well, I just entered a pair programming. And if my window is bigger than the window of the person that I'm working with, it'll create all these dots here. So this is the window I'm paired into size, and this is the size of the window in front of me.
Okay.
So you get this kind of thing here. But what I was going to show you is, let me get out.
So if he's running 132 columns.
So let me go back over here. We'll get a fresh window here. So your splits are typically like perfectly in the middle, right? But what's kind of neat about this, and you think about it to some degrees, if I got a top going or a tail going, I may not want all this real estate for the tail to be happening. So I can actually do this.
And how are you doing that?
Okay, so that is a leader. It's very similar to walking around the window. So it's a leader with an arrow, but I don't let go of the control key. So I go leader, and then I start hitting the arrow down, and it'll start changing where it's at.
Okay, so it's all context.
If I'm in whatever window I'm in, if I go down, it's going to shrink. But if I push it the other direction, it'll go up.
Yeah.
Okay, so it just depends on where your cursor's at. But now I can have this nice little window down here giving me like a tail of some log, right? Well, I got my main thing happening up here.
Okay.
And think about that for possibilities of debugging some program where you might have like 6 terminal windows open because you got these 3 over here tailing out multiple log files. Well, I could have
That doesn't work in the Mac.
this thing split up into thirds tailing out
It doesn't
3
work.
separate log files, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on a different window or maybe a sidebar window is where I'm firing out the program all the time. Now I'm just paying attention to the output. So I'm not sitting there trying to toggle windows in front looking for what's happening. I can see it all in one visual spot.
You say control, leader.
Leader, hold,
Hold
keep holding control and hit your arrow.
In the Mac, Mac doesn't like it.
Mac doesn't like it?
Yeah, it intercepts it as like a Windows.
Yeah, stop using Macs, just get rid of them.
I don't even know what the hell you call this.
This first time these iMacs have been turned on in like 4 months.
They probably just need an update and then it'll work fine.
Half of them have High Sierra on them in the middle of doing the updates. So, is your typical workstation have more than one monitor or just one monitor? Or is it just your laptop?
Currently, my typical workstation has one monitor.
Okay.
So I do find myself using Tmux. I usually blow my terminal way up open. And here's what I mean by the fancy stuff in Tmux. I'm just going to give a plug to Tmux real quick. Typically, when you open up your normal GNOME terminal and you have a screen like this, first of all, I can't stand the default font settings, right? So when I do the, hey, I want to shrink you up, it takes this and goes like that to the whole terminal. And then I got to grab a hold and stretch it back out. But if you notice, when I did that, it shrank the fonts and kept the window the same size. And the only way I've seen that work with the GNOME terminals, if the first thing I do is I say, I want you to maximize. And once you maximize it and then you start shrinking the font, it'll do it inside the window. But I way too often open up a window, stretch it, shrink the fonts, shrinks the whole window, then I gotta re-stretch it back out to where I wanted it. And that's one thing I liked about Tmux and Terminator is they just shrink the font inside whatever size you have it. They don't shrink the size of the whole terminal. But using Tmux, I do find myself a lot of times, well, I don't need 2 different windows open because sometimes I'll open up a window here to do all my editing and stuff for development. And I'll have another one here, SSH into different boxes. And yeah, I could do that in the same Tmux session, but for whatever reason, I split it off. And it's just part of that workflow. But other workflows, I'll open up a terminal, maximize it to the whole screen, and then I'll just have a heyday inside Tmux, slicing and dicing my windows, creating windows on the side, and never have to worry about it. The only GUI that gets in the way is when I need to do research online, I'll jump into Firefox. But you can also see where you could really leverage links in this and do command line browsing.
Yeah.
Because now you can even have like a whole separate window, and you just like I said, if you know the windowing numbers, it starts with 0, which a lot of people hate because it's so far away from 1. So a lot of people reorder the windows and say, I want my first window to be 1, and we'll go from there. So 0 is really 10. But like if you know when 1 is where you're doing your browsing, then you can just do a leader 1, and it'll snap you right over your link session where you can continue doing research, and then you can leader over to whatever window you're on doing your development or coding.
So is Tmux, when you have multiple tabs, is it just that pull down?
Yeah. Okay. And you can see, I mean, yeah, I can come in here with Tmux up here and do the same kind of splits, but if I'm SSH in some place, you're not going to redirect Tmux back across the big bad internet just to do that. So Tmux is just a lot lighter weight. So I really don't leverage the graphical terminals to do the splitting. I use Tmux to do all that. And like I said, it translates everywhere. So. And here's the other ugly thing too. Sometimes you get this ugly title bar kind of taking up real estate where Tmux got these nice things here. And you also notice Tmux has this green bar. This green bar toggles with where you're at inside the windows. So kind of it's used as an identifier what pane you're in.
Okay. Now I'm curious about integrating cluster SSH with Tmux.
I haven't learned the command, but Tmux even has its own command to say, I want to pair these 2 windows, bind these 2 windows together, and everything you type in one types in the other.
All right, that would probably suffice.
Like I said,
when you're messing with 10 web servers, you tend to.
Yeah. And I think Tmux might do a better job of replicating commands across those panes than, say, cluster SH does. I've heard of some issues there. But like I said, Tmux has so much more behind it. It's tough to cover in a short session. I mean, we've already been here for the bulk of an hour, and we're still scratching the ice on top of what this thing can do. It's a pretty powerful command. It's definitely one I think you'd want in your arsenal.
Yeah.
And that's not to say screen is any worse or better. I just think that Tmux is being more developed. So it's answering more calls to people who want features and things fixed, where the old baseline screen kind of prevents that because it's kind of a mess. Think BI versus NeoVim. NeoVim's a cleaned up baseline. But then you add in plugins, you add in the customization that I want to change. You know, screen, you're stuck with A. So if you wanted to switch it to B, not going to happen.
You got the source code.
Well, I guess you can download it, recompile it, and
No, screens.
Do you want to write code or do you want to write
Screens
source?
older than, well, the screen's probably 30 years old.
yeah,
It's very, very.
AT100.
screen is super old, yeah.
And back in the day when we had screen, you didn't have any of this fancy schmancy. I'm trying to sound like him. You didn't have, you just had VI or Emacs. You didn't have Emacs, you had micro Emacs.
Uphill both ways.
You ever play with Twin at all?
Which one?
Twin.
I think I did it one time.
Twin is a terminal window interface. It's an attempt to put a desktop on your system through all terminal commands. The way it lies, man, it's amazing. It looks like Windows 1.0 pretty much.
Okay.
But it's pretty funky because you can actually create sub windows inside that as well. And there's a whole bunch of different versions of that. But not very good stuff.
Yep. So, you know, and then you can even, you know, there's that mention of Midnight Commander, you know, you can bring down the command line version of Midnight Commander on one of these panes and type in C. You know, so this is really just, I want multiple access, I want multiple shells in this one window, and I never have to bring another terminal to the foreground.
I know we've got some scripts where when we're bringing a system up, it'll actually fire off screen.
Yep.
And run the program, so it's always in there.
There's a, if you do like a Tmux versus screen, I think you'll get some good comparison sites on the commands. Right. So they'll say like screen, blah, 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 and Tmux, blah, 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 are the equivalent commands. Okay. So if you wanted to start converting, that's very easy and very possible to do. Yeah. And then, like I said, with the other things like Tmuxinator, you know, whenever you get a new project or something you want to work on, you just Tmuxinator Bob, and boom, here comes your development environment for the next cool thing. And then you can disconnect from that, and you can actually have multiple sessions running in the background. So from that one terminal, you have alternate workspaces for whatever it is you're working on. And each one of those workspaces have multiple workspaces associated with them because of the windows and the panes. And you're rocking it all from one terminal window.
General question to the group. Is it history? If you wanted to append your history, it's history-A, isn't it? Terminal? Because I've run into a situation where someone's written a program, they fire it off in the screen session, and then the box dies. And we bring the box back up. We don't have the command that you ran to run that program because screen didn't put that information in the bash history. I'm trying to see of a way of appending the history. Because normally if you want to append to the history, you exit out of the screen session and then it puts your command history in.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's anything similar.
So one thing I noticed with Tmux is like if you, so I'm a big fan of the bash kit prompt.
Yeah.
So like when I log into a system, it's already part of my bash RC file that, boom, here's this prompt. So any Git repository I see underneath, I get this nice prompt that tells me what branch I'm in, what the status of where I'm at is at, just right on my prompt. As soon as I fire up Tmux, all that goes away. So I have to resource in my bash RC or specifically resource in the bash kit prompt to get that inside Tmux. So there are certain files that don't get reread in by Tmux, and I can only assume that's the same thing for Screen.
So if you're having environments that you're setting up in your RC, you'll have to pull that in.
Yep.
Okay. So sound I don't recognize.
Cool. So, any other questions? Go once, go twice.
Hey, we're gonna tornado watch.
Sweet. Let's go fly kite.
All right. Thanks, Chad.
We've done it in a tornado watch.
Do you want to copy these slides to post someplace?
Sure. You mean if you want
The resources online are actually 80 times better than what I have here, so.
Okay.
Do
Do you want to reply to the meeting announcement and just like a link to
Yeah.
those? Or-
Yeah, I'll make this a public one.
It's gonna be everything, man.
Throw it out there, so.
Yeah.
I'll link this up for a while, in case anybody's playing with Tmux, they didn't
I don't know, it's.
tell me what slide to go
It
to.
sounds really early.
Any other items? Anyone? XFS?
Who's talking next month?
I don't know. They got it next.
Is it me? No,
Next month is me. Well, no, it's you.
I put my name, when are you out of town?
August.
August? I put my name in August. So, that's fine.
We're out of town too.
I'll be going to Strats.
I hope. What's Strats?
New file system.
It's not a file system per se, it's a storage management system. It's kind of like LVM on steroids.
Oh, okay.
It uses LVMs, but it's, I don't know, it's.
Kind of extrapolates from that.
I've read maybe 3 paragraphs, but
But he's ready to move the company.
I'm ready to push the ball forward and learn some more.
What was that presentation you did where it was disk to disk bit copy? D something? DB? It was like you could copy one system hard drive to another over a network. I thought maybe.
DB and cat. DB and netcat.
That'll do it. No, it had some integrity. Now I'm gonna.
Are
Like
you thinking
D0,
backup PC as a backup manager?
No, it's like online systems. And I once asked you, hey, can you do databases over that? And you're like, I wouldn't do it.
Oh, DRDD.
That's right.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's old and degraded.
like many arrayed systems.
It's a synchronous file system copy.
I lost my entire DVR box.
Oh.
The first time I've had to reinstall it in probably 7 years.
No, really? It's a myth.
Oh yeah. And I got,
so easy now.
oh, I know.
So easy now. It used to be such a pain in the ass. You just throw in a myth Ubuntu CD and you're done.
Well, some of my recordings were going back to 2007.
So Myth is still around? 'Cause
Oh.
the last time I looked, they were saying, okay, we're no longer going to, we're gonna stop being in step with the Ubuntu.
Well, I think Myth is still around. Myth Ubuntu, on the other hand, I think.
Yeah,
is-
that's different.
I've moved all my front end and back end. It's just a straight Ubuntu. But you still can do an apt-get install Myth or
Yeah.
Myth Ubuntu desktop, Myth Ubuntu backend.
I was able to save most of my recordings and my database, so I'll be able to rebuild the system. But I mean, you can go to Best Buy now and get like a HD home run dual tuner now for a pretty good price.
Yeah.
And put that on your network.
That's the way to stick it to the Cox guy. I have 3 HD home run primes with cards, and so I got a total of
9 tuners out of what? We got like 27 or 30 channels or something. I had 2 more channels appear on my television. It was like $11.99, and they're just straight audio.
Oh, really?
I haven't listened long enough to figure out what it is. But it's odd because my upstairs television doesn't pick up any of the 42 channels.
All right.
But my downstairs television does.
Hmm.
And I only contribute that to the quality of the tuner in the television.
Sure.
Are they these are on a network on the antenna, right?
Yeah, this is over the air. I've got like a 7-foot long antenna.
Congratulations.
So. I mean, I had a little one, right, and it was working okay. But then when we moved into the new house, and like I've got room, and I can actually do stuff in my attic. And I bought this huge antenna and kind of oriented it towards Iowa.
Yours is in the attic.
It's in the attic.
See, I could.
It's like a 60-mile antenna, but once you put it in an attic, you kind of remove some of that distance. But I'm still getting red oak 36.
I've got line of sight for those towers, so I think.
Me too.
Yeah. So.
But 42 is down on the way to Lincoln.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So that's a different orientation. Good old antenna web.
There you go. So it could be myth or strategy. I got some topics for us.
Woohoo!
Myth TV was my first presentation I did at
Are there any
OLUG
more
in
open
2003.
slots this year?
Yeah. What's that?
Is there any more open slots?
There's several.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll go check the list. I haven't done one this year, so I feel.
Looking at OLUG.org right now, the currently next month is supposed to be me, but I'm more than willing to.
No, I'm not gonna be ready for that.
What are you talking on?
I don't know, they're gonna do Wine and Orbiter, making Wine, make your Windows game run under Linux, because it's a pain in the ass, it's getting too easy now, once in a while, new
What's
Linux
that?
fix a lot of things.
What's that
Or I'm
called?
gonna do something about my,
Cross something,
new
like
distro.
trans gaming or
What, yeah.
the
Well,
commercial version?
trans gaming's pretty much done.
Done? Okay.
There's Code Weaver still exists, they have crossover crossover games. The trans gaming guys were militant officers of them. No, I actually got to meet the guys from trans gaming, they had some really cool ideas, just, they thought they we're not recording, are
Well, why don't we end the meeting here? Thanks for watching.